Welcome to the Journey of a Thousand Mistakes. My name is Guillaume Sauvé, and as usual, I'm so happy that you're here. Today, I'd like to try something a little different. In the past, I'd prepare a little practice, let's say once or twice, just to make sure I had everything, didn't fumble too much over my words. But today, I'd like to try something different and just completely improvise it. Obviously, I know pretty much what I want to talk about. I'm worried that if I take the time to really practice and rehearse this, all that emotion is just not going to come across because I'm slowly going to lose it. So I'm thinking that by doing this first shot, it's going to make it way more intense, at least for me, because that's something I struggle with, managing to exteriorize how I really feel inside. And this week's challenge really helped me to do that. So that's why I want to try to do this differently this time. We'll see how it works. Hopefully it's not too bad. We'll see. So, if you listened to last week's episode, you'll know that this week the challenge was to pretend as though I would die at the end of the week. It sounds kind of morbid, I'll admit, but the reason I did that was because I wanted to really experience what it would be like to be about to die. Because all those big goals, those big dreams you have, all go out the window because you know you won't have time to finish it. So the book I'm writing now, out the window. Although, just a quick caveat, I did continue writing every single day because that's part of my year-long challenge. And I didn't want to ruin that just because I'm doing this challenge. So aside from that 1 hour where I would write every day, I pretty much spent every minute of those 5 days just enjoying the moment, going for walks, just feeling the air on my skin, watching the trees sway in the wind. I was so much more focused on those small things, those small details, and just found so much joy in it. Honestly, I was way more present than I've been in the past, just because I was conscious of that. And since, yes, deep down I knew, okay, this isn't real, I'm not really gonna die, I felt like it wasn't as intense, but just choosing to behave as though I were gonna die. That already made me realize it so much more than normal. Also, and the biggest thing that happened from this whole experience was that I finally had those conversations with the people I love. You know, the kind of conversations you're like, oh, they know how I feel, or one day we'll talk about that. And it's just like, you always feel like you have all that time ahead of you. But sometimes you don't. For all you know, you could go out your door and just get hit by a bus, or a loved one just dies unexpectedly. You never know. And the worst thing in the world is to live with regret, knowing you could have done things differently. So I didn't want that to happen. Even though I'd say I'm pretty close to my family and pretty open, there's certain things I've never really told them. So this week, that's what I did. I went to each person I'm close to and told them I love them and just let them know how deeply I care for them, that I'm happy they're in my life. I'm really proud of who they are. And honestly, it took maybe 5 to 10 minutes to have that simple conversation, but it made such a big difference because it's hard for me to express those emotions, especially saying I love you, because when I was young, my parents chose never to say that to me and my sister and my brother. I don't regret it. I'm not angry at them for choosing to do that. I completely understand why they did it, because they didn't want it to become automatic. They wanted to be sincere, and they wanted their actions to show us that they loved us. So we always knew that they loved us. But because they never said it out loud, it made it difficult for me and my sister, because we spoke about this. It made it difficult for us to say I love you. And I feel maybe that's why I have a difficulty expressing myself. Once again, not blaming my parents whatsoever. They did the best they could, and honestly, they were great parents. It's just in that one aspect, I find their decision slightly hindered my development. But that's okay. That's the whole point of this. Now I get to not make up for that, but to readjust to get to a level where I'm happy. So anyway, I went to every person I'm close to and just had that conversation. And it was just so liberating. It was awesome. Like, honestly, I'd never told my sister I loved her, even though I do. And I'm pretty sure she already knew I did. But I never actually told her out loud. And doing it just made me feel that much closer. And my mother, honestly, there was a lot of issues between us in the past because she went through a period of her life where she kind of rejected the whole family concept. That's okay. I've accepted that. We've moved on. And honestly, that's the one I was dreading the most, telling her I loved her, even though, like, I don't really think of her as a mother anymore. Yes, sort of, but kind of just as another human being. Anyway, it's a weird relationship. I don't want to get too much into that, but that's kind of the one I was dreading the most. And honestly, it was a really fun, relaxing conversation. With my dad, it was a little more awkward because he's more like the direct, shallow, and I don't mean shallow in a bad way, just shallow in the sense that we'll talk about what's important to talk about and who cares about the rest. So it's more like basic conversations like, oh, how are you doing? What's new? Like stuff like that. So it's just a different type of relationship. It's not any worse or any better. So our conversation, because I didn't get to see him, he lives in a different area and I didn't have time to visit everyone. I just gave him a call. And honestly, it was maybe 30 to a minute conversation. It was super short. But it was nice. I'm really glad I did it. Because also, I'm pretty sure it was the first time I said it to him and my mother. And also, my brother-in-law, I wasn't planning on telling him I loved him. We just like had that conversation. I'm like, you know what? I really respect you. I'm glad you're in my sister's life. You're a good guy and everything. And then we started talking. I just mentioned how it's hard for me to say I love you as an example of what we were talking about. And just out of the blue, he's like, oh, I love you. And I'm like, whoa, okay, cool. And then I'm just like, oh, I love you too, man. And it's just like, I wasn't expecting that. And it was a really fun experience. And the next day we went for a long walk because I have a dog. So we went through the woods and we had a nice chat. We'd never really been that close. And I'm like, oh, this is nice. Even though we had just like a short conversation that one day, I feel like it made such a big difference. Also with my uncle, we went out to supper, just chatted about stuff. Once again, just like opened up, even though it's something he already knew, something I already felt, just saying it out loud. I feel like it just strengthened the connection. And I'm really glad I did it. And it's just like so many people like that. Also, for example, my roommate, who's also like a really good friend of mine, I recently realized like, I guess he's my best friend. And I never said it out loud and I wasn't sure if he thought of me the same way. So I'd been kind of like thinking about saying it, not really sure, but I'm like, okay, this week, perfect moment to say it. So before I left to go stay with my family, I told him. And I'm like, and he said, yeah, cool, man. I think of you the same way. So I'm like, oh, cool. I got a best friend now. So just like stuff like that. You're not really sure, you take for granted, or sometimes you don't say because you're afraid of how the other person is going to react. And when you say, you're like, oh, that was easy. So it's just stop limiting yourself. I've done it for so long. And by doing this challenge, I feel like it helped me so much. And it was just a fun, relaxing week. In the past, when I have a free, like a few minutes, half an hour, whatever, I'd either read a book or watch TV or listen to a podcast or just something like that. But this time I'm like, you know what? No, if I were about to die, I wouldn't care about consuming all that information. I'd pretty much just sit there, enjoy the moment, go for a walk outside, call a loved one, just be in the present, in the moment. And that's what I did. And it's just such a relaxing feeling. Even though I didn't really do that much this week, I just had a few conversations and I feel like I got so much out of it. It's kind of hard to explain, as you can probably tell, because I'm kind of like starting not really sure how to explain it. I hope I managed to convey across the emotion that I got from this. Honestly, it was really amazing. Okay, so that was pretty much it for this challenge. Honestly, I just got back from my week. I took a shower because I felt like really filthy. Anyway, I still haven't picked a challenge for next week. I have no idea what it is. So we'll just move on from that, not mention it. I'll come up with it. We'll see later. Anyway, this week's mistakes and victories log. Honestly, I didn't do any mistakes. I did everything I wanted to. Relax, be in the moment, and have those conversations with my loved ones. So I'm really happy. No mistakes this week. But there was one victory, which is pretty much this whole challenge. Just being open, telling everyone I'm close to that I love them, because it's something that's really hard for me. And the fact that I did it, I feel like it's finally like taking that step in the right direction. Even though every single time I said it, I had that like cringing feeling inside and I had to force myself to do it. But I always I was always so happy I did it, and it made such a big difference. So yeah, that was pretty much my week. Everything went amazing. I just took a break from my life, from everything except writing, and it was just so relaxing. Honestly, I'm kind of dreading going back to work, not because I don't like it. I love writing. I love doing these videos, learning new things. It's awesome. But in the back of my mind, it's always like, oh, it's work. So sometimes you're like, I just want to take the day off, take the week off, relax. So I'm kind of dreading it, but at the same time, I feel like I'm ready. I did my challenge. It went amazing. I had a break. It's time to get back to work. Time to be awesome. And, as usual, time to make mistakes. So go make mistakes. Thank you for being here. Have an awesome week.